trillion, which is more money than this country can make in 100 years if everything went perfectly. Democrat lawmakers sponsored legislation that would outlaw the private health insurance plans for 180 million Americans. So you have these private plans that people love. They've negotiated, they've fought for, they went to different companies, all great companies. They have plans that they love, 180 million plans, 180 million people. And you know what happens to them? It's over. They take it away. The Democrat platform would suspend all immigration enforcement and give free health care and mass amnesty to illegal aliens. The problem is our country can't afford it. And as soon as you announce that, millions and millions of people, despite the wall, which is almost finished, and by the way, paid for by Mexico, despite all of these things that we've done, millions of people would flood into our country. This would obliterate Medicare and would totally demolish your Social Security. Democrats in Washington are also pushing a plan to abolish the suburbs by eliminating single-family zoning and linking federal highway grants to a federal takeover of local zoning. Your suburb will be gone. The American dream will be gone. This plan will devastate the property values of millions of middle-class homeowners, including the majority of African-American, Hispanic-American, and Asian-American households who live in the suburbs. The policies of the left would unleash a long-lasting economic catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. And I know I'm speaking to some Democrats, and some of you are friends of mine. You will see things happen that will not make you happy. I don't understand your thinking. I don't understand how you can be backing such policies, but you're wrong. I can only assume it's habit. You've been there for a long time, and it's habit, because they will destroy this country. Our country will go into a depression, the likes of which we have not seen since 1929, and maybe worse. So keep backing them, but you know it's wrong, and I really do believe it's only habit. That's the only reason you can be doing it. Under my continued leadership, we will continue our V-shaped recovery and launch a record-smashing economic boom. We will end the pandemic with a safe and effective vaccine, create 10 million jobs in the first 10 months of 2021, where we're going to have a phenomenal year, and we will soon be announcing, in my opinion, a phenomenal record-setting third quarter, and quickly return to full employment. I will implement a middle-class tax cut, reduce regulations that stifle small businesses, and we've already cut regulations more than any president in history. Whether it's 4 years, 8 years, or in one case more, I have cut regulations far more than any president in the history of our country. A highway that would take 21 years to get approved, we can get done now in 1 year. And it may be rejected for safety or environmental reasons, but you're going to know in 1 year, we brought it down to a level that nobody can even believe. It may get rejected, but it's going to get rejected fast, but most likely it'll get built fast. And we also are expanding opportunity zones, which have been fantastic. We will launch a bold initiative to reshore our medical and pharmaceutical supply chains. As part of this effort, I'll revive Puerto Rico's pharmaceutical industry. We will keep taxes low for companies and move jobs to America. And we'll impose steep tariffs on any company that leaves. They want to leave. They want to make our product and then sell it back after firing everybody. Not going to happen. They will be tariffed. We will strip federal contracts from companies that outsource critical industries. We will negotiate more trade, and this is just has to do. Negotiate more fair and reciprocal trade deals. We want reciprocal deals. If you look at Europe, and if you look at what Europe's done to us over many, many years, and we're bringing it back into balance, but it's way unbalanced. We protect them militarily, and then they take advantage of us on trade with tariffs and non-monetary tariffs, which frankly are worse. We have to put America first, like other countries should put themselves first, but we're putting America first. We will make America into the manufacturing superpower of the world, ending reliance on China once and for all. We will ensure that America remains the world's #1 energy producer. We will end surprise medical billing. require price transparency, which goes into effect already on January 1st, and further reduce the cost of prescription drugs. As you probably know, those of you that are in the drug industry, you're not a big fan of Donald Trump, I can tell you, but I instituted a favored nations clause. So if Germany or another nation is buying the drug for 1/20th of what we pay, and believe it or not, in some cases you have price discrepancies like that, we go to the lowest price anywhere in the world. We're the largest purchaser of drugs. We go to the lowest price. So if somebody's selling a pill for 10 cents and we're paying $2.50, we go to 10 cents. And the 10 cents will come up a little bit, but your drug prices will be reduced by 50, 60, 70, 80, 90%. That's the way it is. We will strongly protect Medicare, Social Security, and patients with pre-existing conditions. And as far as the middleman is concerned, the middleman is out. As far as purchasing drugs from other countries until everything else kicks in, Canada pays 50% what we pay. I've given governors permission to go to Canada and buy drugs directly from Canada, saving, as an example, Ron DeSantis, the state of Florida, approximately 50% and more on the purchase of drugs. So they'll buy the same exact drug from the same exact plant or lab for 50% less. I've also outlined a new plan to provide historic parity, and this is really so important to the Black community, known as the Platinum Plan, creating new wealth, new access to capital, and school choice as a civil right for every American family. We need school choice. The Democrats will never give you school choice. They will never give you charter schools that have worked so well. We're lifting up citizens of every race, color, religion, and creed. We're delivering a future of fairness, justice, and dignity for every community in our land. And we're defending our values, our principles, and our cherished way of life. And guided by these timeless convictions, we will make next year one of the single greatest years in the history of our country. It's an honor to be with you. I think I'll be with you next year again, but, we'll have to see, because if I don't win the election, you probably won't want me, and that's okay with me too. But I think we're going to have a tremendous success. We're having lines of people, 30, 40, 50,000 people lining up to see a speech with 1 day notice. And my opponent is getting 22 people with working very hard to get them. So I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to have a tremendous success. I hope so. But next year will be one of the greatest years in the history of our country. You're going to see growth like we haven't seen before. And it's an honor to be with you. God bless you all. I think we're going to take a few questions, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will say this: you are certainly looking very fit, and that's all to the good. We'll now enter the Q&A section, and our two very able questioners today are Cindy O'Connell, Chair of the Economic Club of Florida, and David Rubenstein, President of the Economic Club of Washington, D.C. Each will be asking two questions in alternating order. Chair O'Connell, you have the first question.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Economic Club of Florida and the Sunshine State, we are so honored to be with you today. Our question: how important is funding for infrastructure projects like airports, bridges, roads around the country to national security? And how would these figure into your next term?
We're very big. We actually have a plan now, but we're going to make it much bigger. We're having a hard time getting things through the Democrats. We got the wall. You know, the wall is one of the biggest infrastructure plans ever. The wall is it's a massive, very highly technical, highly expensive wall. It's given us a tremendous border. We've actually shut down the illegals coming in, virtually shut them down on the southern border with the help of Mexico. And we don't have the drug traffic is way down. Everything is way down. And that was, we consider that infrastructure, one of the largest infrastructure projects ever. But we want to redo our roads, our highways, our everything, our tunnels, our bridges. Some are unsafe. If you look at the list, by the way, Cindy, if you take a look at a list, you'll see like 25% of the bridges, they call them unsafe. I mean, they can't be so unsafe. How would they let them open? But they're in very bad condition. So we're going to be redoing our tunnels, our bridges. It's going to be an absolute priority. Could have happened last year, but the Democrats didn't want to do it because they don't want to make things look good. They want to make things look bad. But you know what? It's going to all happen. I was telling somebody before, they said, can the country ever come together? I said, it was coming together. Prior to the plague coming in from China, should have never happened. Prior to the plague coming in, people were calling me that were not calling me for years, were not calling Republicans for years. And the people were called, they wanted to make deals. They wanted to get together. They saw what was happening. And basically, success is going to bring us all together. And we're going to have even greater success now. We had to spend money to get there, but relatively speaking, not much. We're going to have even greater success now. But success is going to bring us together, and infrastructure is a big part of it.
Mr. President, thank you for speaking to us. I have a question for you about the federal debt. We have $27 trillion of federal debt now. If we have another stimulus bill out of Congress, are you worried that the entire amount of federal debt will be too large for us to pay off in a sensible way?
Well, you and I talk about federal debt a lot. I know it's on your mind. It's certainly on my mind, David. The one thing I will say is we were starting to, prior to the plague, we were starting to get that number down. You know, we were getting that number. The interest rates were so low, and we were seeing things that on such a positive scale. And then we had no choice but to put money in. Otherwise, you had to put money in. You had to force money in because of the pandemic. But we were starting to focus on that very, very deeply. We were making it long term. We were getting ready to pay off interest. We were getting ready to pay off debt. And a lot of good things were happening. And then when, you know, all of a sudden you're running a country and it's going beautifully, you have the greatest economy in history, and you're in a position to start thinking about paying off large chunks of debt. And then all of a sudden something like the pandemic happens, right? The plague. But no, it's very concerning to me, and we're going to start doing that. I think you're going to see tremendous growth, David, and the growth is going to get it done. We'll take care of it. It's very much on my mind as it is yours. It's one of the first questions you always ask me. It's one of the first questions I always talk to you about. And the sad thing is we were at the point where we were getting ready to be able to do it, and now I'll have to wait a little bit longer. But we're going to have an economy that will be just as good or better, and that'll be next year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, how would taxpayers here and around the country be better off financially with 4 more years of a Trump administration?
Well, the big thing is the taxes are much lower. Look, we've brought in, David can tell you, because we talk about this, many, many companies have come to this country that would never be here if we didn't cut taxes. That's corporate taxes. But we also cut middle income taxes, and we're going again for a big middle income tax cut. They want to raise taxes, and they want to raise it on nonsense. You know, the Green New Deal, if you look at the individual points of the Green New Deal, it's insane. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Let's take down buildings and build buildings with smaller windows because they're environmentally more efficient. The whole thing is insane. And at first I thought it was just a political hoax, but they actually want to do it, and they will destroy our country. So we are low taxes. We are going to continue to be low taxes. We are low regulation. And by the way, I believe strongly in regulation, but not where it takes 21 years to get a highway approved. I believe in regulation where it takes 1 year or 2 years, and that's what we have it down. So you're going to have low taxes. One of the things I spoke with farmers today, and, you know, we take it for granted, but the estate tax, they call it the death tax, the estate tax on farms, small farms and businesses, we got rid of. There is no tax. They want to put it back on. The Democrats want to raise taxes to a level, quadruple, basically, but to a level that nobody's ever seen before. And that's bad. But what's even worse is they then want to take all that money and they want to squander it on this Green New Deal nonsense that was made up by a person that has no environmental sense, that has no sense, period. It's purely political. And I can't even believe it's good politically. But we are going to be cutting taxes further. And that includes business taxes, but it includes especially middle income taxes. And people are saying it. You know, we had a point during this incredible run that we had just prior to the plague coming in, where families were saving $9,000 a year when you add energy into it over what Obama had. And that was something, but it's still, the number's a fantastically big number. Big difference.
Mr. President, final question. Some industries have been very hard hit by the pandemic, like the cruise industry, the airline industry, the hotel industry, the restaurant industry. When do you think those industries will be able to recover and be back to where they were before the pandemic?
Yeah, it's one of the toughest questions because, you know, that this was a vicious pandemic, a vicious disease, especially if you're of a certain age, et cetera, et cetera. I know people in the cruise industry, they were sailing high. They didn't have a problem in the world. All of a sudden, they're fighting for their lives. Same thing with hotels and other industries. We are trying to help them. It's going to happen. I think the vaccine is going to be a big factor. I also think it's rounding the turn with or without. It's just rounding the turn. It will get back. We are trying to help, and we're trying to get some stimulus money, which I think is very important for certain industries, certainly the airline business. You know, people aren't exactly hopping into airplanes to travel. And then you go to Europe and you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Who's going to do that? Is there anybody in the world that's going to do that? So we're working with other countries. It's all going to come back. This thing is going away, and it's all going to come back. But in the meantime, I'd like to see the Democrats loosen up a little bit. You know, all they want to do is bail out their badly run cities and states. They want bailout money. They don't care about the worker. They don't care about the people. They want bailout money. They want trillions of dollars of bailout money so they can bail out New York, California, all these states that frankly need more help than that. That's why we're going to do very well this election in those places. They need more help than that. But, David, I can tell you that those industries, they were great industries, and right now they're suffering, but they'll be back. And I think it'll be much sooner rather than later. I want to thank David also because I'm looking at the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. I'm standing here and I'm saying, I always think of David now. I think of David sometimes more than George Washington when I look at the Washington Monument because he really did a fantastic job. He saved it. He made it great. And I promise nobody's taking it down, David. Okay, that I can tell you. Nobody's getting close to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for giving us a great overview. And Cindy and David, thanks to you as well for your time.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor. Thank you.
Well, I'm pleased to announce that we've got a lot of great speakers coming up here. And let me give you a few names. In the next few weeks, we've got General H.R. McMaster that will address the Economic Club in New York. In fact, that is this afternoon. That should be a very, very interesting discussion. After that, we've got Tom Barkin, who is the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, Charlie Cook, editor of the Cook Political Report, Deanna Mulligan, chief executive officer of the Guardian Life Insurance Company, and James Gorman, the CEO of Morgan Stanley, Mark Zandi, chief economist of Moody's Analytics, and Jay Clayton, chairman of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. So we think that the